All right, so are you ready to dive in? Today we're going to be looking at respect and reputation, how to build it, how to keep it, and most importantly, how to not just like completely lose it.
Yeah, how to not throw it out the window.
Yeah, and we've got some crazy stories that are going to make you really think about this stuff.
Absolutely.
This is a really fascinating topic though, because it brings in psychology.
Right.
Power dynamics even.
Absolutely, and strategy.
Yeah.
It's really about how people perceive you and then how you work with that perception.
It's all about perception.
Perception is everything.
So to kick things off, let's go way back.
Okay.
8th century BC, ancient Iran.
Wow.
We got this guy, Deioces.
Okay.
And Deioces was known for being like a straight shooter, super fair.
Right.
Especially when it came to settling disputes.
I see.
And get this, people preferred his judgment over like going to court.
Wow, so he was like the preferred method.
He is the man.
Instead of the actual court system.
Yeah, so you'd think that'd be a good thing, right?
Yeah, you would think so.
Yeah.
But all this attention, it kind of started working against him.
Really? So it's almost like, I don't know if you've ever had this experience, but it's like when you're the friend, everyone calls at like 2 in the morning when their relationship falls apart.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like eventually you start screening your calls.
You got to protect your energy.
Exactly. So what did this guy Deioces do?
Well, he basically realized that being constantly available, it actually diminished his value.
Oh, okay.
And it makes sense, right? Like we tend to place more value on things that are scarce or hard to get.
It's true.
So he made a strategic decision to withdraw, basically making himself less accessible.
So he basically just disappeared.
Yeah, he kind of went off the grid for a while.
That's a bold move.
It was, and it created this void, right? Like people started to really feel his absence.
Yeah.
And they missed his leadership. And so when they really, really needed him, he was in a position to set the terms of his return. Ah, interesting.
Which ultimately ended up boosting his authority and respect.
So you're saying playing hard to get, that's not just a dating strategy.
Yeah. No, it's a power move.
It's a power move.
It's a power move. Think about it. It's like those limited edition sneaker drops.
Right.
Everyone wants what they can't have.
Yeah, that's true.
By limiting his availability, he drove up the demand.
Okay, so let's jump ahead a couple centuries.
All right,
19th century France, totally different vibe.
Yeah.
But same core concept. So this time we got King Louis Philippe.
Okay.
He decided to ditch the whole untouchable monarch thing.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he was walking around, no crown, just hanging with people.
So a man of the people?
Yeah, just a regular guy with an umbrella.
Interesting.
Sounds kind of cool, right?
Yeah, it does.
But it totally backfired.
It did. What happened?
So being a man of the people,
right,
not a good look for a king.
Not a good look.
So what went wrong?
Well, empathy's important, right?
But people also kind of want strength and competence from their leaders.
Yeah.
And by being too casual, too relatable,
Right.
it kind of undermined the authority that his position demanded.
I see.
His attempts at empathy were actually interpreted as weakness.
Oh, wow.
And it really ultimately cost him.
That's rough.
It is.
It's even with the best intentions,
Yeah.
you can just totally miss the mark
You can't.
if you don't understand the expectations of the role.
Yeah, you really got to, read the room,
Right.
understand the dynamics.
Makes you wonder how much those leadership styles
Yeah,
are shaped by the culture and the expectations of that time.
totally.
That's interesting. Okay, so let's shift gears now.
Okay.
Let's talk about a master of grabbing attention,
Okay.
P.T. Barnum.
Oh, yeah.
The legendary showman, this guy,
The ultimate hype man.
he knew how to generate hype,
He did.
even if his methods weren't always, the most ethical.
Right.
But he managed to spin a case of mistaken identity,
Oh, really?
being confused for a criminal into free publicity.
Wow.
His circus.
That's impressive.
Talk about turning lemons into lemonade.
He knew how to work a crowd.
He did, and then on top of that,
Yeah.
there was his infamous mermaid hoax.
A mermaid host.
Yeah, a totally made-up creature.
Just to, get people in the door.
Yeah.
That's wild.
It was crazy, but it worked, right?
Oh, it drew massive crowds. I mean, no doubt about that.
So it worked.
But I think this raises a good point.
That's that.
Attention on its own isn't enough, right?
You need more.
You need substance. You need authenticity. You need something real to earn that lasting respect.
Okay, so Barnum,
Yeah.
he was great at getting attention,
Yeah.
but maybe not so great at keeping it.
Yeah.
In a way that like builds genuine respect.
Exactly.
It's like the difference between fleeting fame and building a reputation that endures.
Yeah, it's a marathon, not a sprint.
Okay, last story for this part of our deep dive.
Okay.
Heading back to royalty. King Henry VIII.
King Henry VIII, oh boy.
And let's be real.
Yeah.
This guy's mostly famous for his 6 wives.
Well, you know, his desire to divorce Catherine of Aragon, that's a perfect example of power dynamics in action.
Oh, how?
He couldn't go head-to-head with the Pope or Catherine, directly. So he chose a different tactic, something a little more subtle.
What, did he, like, ghosted them?
Essentially, yes.
A king ghosting people?
He strategically ignored them.
Wow.
Demonstrating that sometimes withdrawn recognition, like that can be a very powerful way to diminish an opponent's influence.
So by not engaging, he was actually making a statement.
Exactly. He was saying, I don't recognize your power over me.
That's kind of brilliant.
That's a bold move.
So the takeaway here is that sometimes silence can speak volumes.
Yes. Sometimes saying nothing is the loudest thing you can do.
All right, we've covered a lot of ground here.
We have.
It's incredible how these, like, historical figures use such different approaches to gain and maintain respect, or in some cases, just lose it entirely.
It's fascinating.
And what's really interesting is how their actions often had these, like, unintended consequences.
Yeah, sure.
Showing just how complex this whole thing really is.
It's a delicate balance.
It really is.
Yeah.
Makes you wonder how all this plays out today, especially with social media and everything.
Oh, yeah, totally.
Like, think about influencers. They're always fighting for attention.
That's a great point. It's like a constant battle for eyeballs.
Right. And it seems like the ones who actually gain respect are the ones who are actually offering something of value.
Exactly. It can't just be about the hype.
Right.
There has to be substance behind it.
Like real expertise, entertainment, a unique perspective, something.
A fresh take.
Yeah.
Yeah, they got to back it up, just like P.T. Barnum.
Exactly. It's not just about, fleeting fame.
Yeah.
It's about building a reputation that lasts.
It's about the long game.
All this talk about scarcity and perceived value, it reminds me of DIC's whole strategy.
Oh, right, withdrawn.
Of withdrawn, yeah.
Interesting.
Like I've noticed even in my own life, like when you're too available, people kind of take you for granted.
That's so true.
It's like that whole saying, familiarity breeds contempt.
Right, it's like the more you're around, the less people appreciate you.
Yeah, exactly.
I think it's not just about being aloof or distant, though. It's more about setting healthy boundaries.
Okay.
Recognizing that our time and energy are valuable.
Right.
And we deserve to protect them.
So it's about respecting yourself enough to not let others disrespect your time.
Exactly.
And it's funny, it seems like that self-respect often translates into other people valuing you more.
It's like a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yeah.
When we value ourselves, others tend to follow suit.
It makes me think about those experts, thought leaders who are really selective.
Oh, yeah.
About what they take on.
They're very careful, very curated about how they spend their time and energy.
It's like they're protecting their time and energy.
Yeah.
But they're also enhancing their reputation.
Absolutely. It's about quality over quantity.
It's like the difference between a mass-produced item.
Yes.
And like a handcrafted masterpiece.
Perfect analogy.
The masterpiece is rarer, more unique, and therefore more valuable.
It's like diocese stepping back from public view creates that sense of scarcity, increases the demand.
It's wild how these principles apply across different contexts, different time periods.
It's fascinating.
Makes you think, are we all capable of mastering this stuff?
I think so. I really do.
I think so.
It starts with self-awareness.
Okay.
And a willingness to understand how our actions impact others.
And maybe a bit of courage to step back when you need to.
Absolutely, even when it feels counterintuitive.
Like Henry VIII ignoring the Pope.
Exactly.
But that can backfire too, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like with the whole Watergate scandal and the plumbers.
Yeah, there's no one-size-fits-all answer.
Right. It's all about knowing when to apply these things and when to adapt.
It's all about context.
It's tricky.
It is.
But that's what makes it so interesting.
Yeah.
It's about navigating the nuances of how we interact and understand in that respect.
Yeah.
It's earned
It's not a given.
Not demanded.
We gotta earn it.
It's a lifelong journey.
It is. It's a journey of learning and adapting.
This deep dive has been really insightful.
I'm glad to hear it.
I feel like I have a whole new understanding of how to approach building and maintaining respect.
These stories offer, they offer real lessons that we can apply.
So, any final thoughts?
I would encourage our listener
to
reflect on their own experiences.
Okay.
And consider how these principles might apply to their interactions.
Right.
Think about a time when you felt either respected or disrespected.
And how your own actions might have contributed to those perceptions.
It's all about being mindful.
And remembering that respect is a two-way street.
It's about giving and receiving in equal measure.
This has given me a lot to think about.
Me too.
Hopefully our listener feels the same.
I hope so. It's been a fascinating exploration of power, perception, and just the complexities of human interaction.
It's amazing how these simple stories from history
I know, right?
can offer such profound insights into human nature.
That's the power of storytelling. It connects us with universal truths
I love that.
that go beyond time and place.
And speaking of connecting,
Yeah.
I'm curious to hear from our listener.
Yes, we'd love to hear from you.
What resonated with you most?
Yeah. What stories stood out?
Yeah, any of these historical figures remind you of anyone in your life.
Or maybe you've had similar experiences.
Yeah, we encourage you to share
your thoughts.
your insights,
Yeah, in the comments.
reflections, everything.
We believe that learning from each other
Yeah.
is an essential part of this journey.
And speaking of journeys,
Right.
it's time for us to wrap up
Already.
this deep dive.
Okay.
But before we go,
Yeah.
I want to leave you with one final thought.
Okay.
We talked a lot about different strategies for gaining respect,
Right.
but ultimately, I think the most important thing
What's that?
is to act with integrity.
Ah, I like that.
Be true to yourself and your values.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you're coming from a place of authenticity, respect just naturally follows.
Authenticity is key.
And remember, respect is a two-way street.
Absolutely.
It's about giving and receiving in equal measure.
Well said.
I think we've covered a lot of ground today.
We have.
Hopefully giving our listeners some food for thought.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive
Mm-hmm.
into respect and reputation.
It's been a pleasure.
It's funny how we look back at these figures, from centuries ago,
Yeah.
and we can still relate to their struggles
Yeah.
and their triumphs.
Totally.
It really highlights how much we all just want
Yeah.
respect and recognition.
Absolutely. It's a timeless pursuit, this quest for respect.
It's universal.
It goes beyond culture, historical periods.
It really does. And it's interesting to see the different ways that
Right.
we try to attain it.
Yeah, sometimes we nail it and sometimes we totally don't.
Yeah, for sure. Trial and error, right?
It is, and a lot of it comes down to understanding those power dynamics.
Right, like DIC's stepping back
Right.
to boost his value,
Mm-hmm.
or Henry VIII just ignoring everybody
Exactly.
to shift the balance of power.
These are tactics, right,
Yeah.
that we can apply in our own lives.
Oh, absolutely.
In our relationships, negotiations.
It's all about being aware
Yeah.
of the signals we send, even if we don't mean to,
Intentionally or not.
and how they affect how people see us.
Yeah, we gotta remember, respect isn't something you can demand.
Right.
It's earned through your actions, your character,
How you treat others.
how you show up.
This has really got me thinking
Me too.
about how I interact with people
Yeah,
and just understanding how these dynamics play out in the world around me.
absolutely. It's a fascinating topic.
It is. So on that note, I think it's time to wrap up.
Okay.
But before we go,
Yeah.
I want to leave everyone with one final thought.
I'd love to hear it.
We've talked about all these different strategies for getting respect, but at the end of the day,
Yeah.
I think the most important thing is to
What is it?
act with integrity.
Act with integrity. I love that.
Be true to yourself.
Your values.
Your values.
Yeah.
Because when you're coming from that place
Yeah.
of authenticity, respect just follows naturally.
Authenticity is key.
It is. And remember,
Yeah.
it goes both ways.
Yeah, it does. It's a two-way street.
Giving and receiving.
You got it.
Well, I think we've covered a lot today.
We have
Hopefully giving everyone some food for thought.
some good stuff to chew on.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into respect and reputation.
It's been a pleasure.
And don't forget to like and subscribe to IllumeCast.